Thank you very much for joining this program. I'm Wayne Yip from the National Central University, Taiwan. And today we're very happy to have to be able to invite Dr. Bassam Alfeeli to give a talk to describe which is an experiment on itself, which is the moon experiment competition. I will let him to explain to you, what that is. But I just want to say a few words about him. Dr. Alfeeli, he received his bachelor degree from Florida Institute of Technology, and his specialty there is he's an electrical engineer, but has an interest on optical science, and he also did his minor in at that time already did his minor in space transportation, and I think he will tell you later why he did that. Then he went on to Virginia Tech Institute of Technology to receive his PhD, and he's now working at the Orbital Space, which is a very interesting company at UAE, and very energetic, dynamic, and have been generating a lot of very interesting programs. And this moon experiment competition is just one of them. So let's start the lecture by Dr. Alfeeli, and please.
Thank you very much, Professor Wang, for the nice and kind introduction. And also, I'd like to thank the Taiwanese Space Union for giving me the honor to present today among the very exciting topics and speakers through this online webinars and seminar series about the moon and other space-related topics. This is a very interesting opportunity to learn about many different topics. I myself watched some of these previous seminars, and I have learned so much. So I hope that you will learn from this webinar today. And please, I encourage you to ask as many questions as possible about this opportunity. Today, we're going to talk about a new global opportunity that's being offered globally to people from around the world, and of course, including people of Taiwan, to participate in this very exciting opportunity. It's a competition to send an experiment to the surface of the moon in 2025. But before we discuss the details of this competition and how to participate, I would like to give you some history about the development of the space sector in the Middle East region, specifically the Gulf countries, or what is known as the Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC. And then how Orbital Space as a startup company started, and what are some of our previous initiatives, and then we'll get into the details of this exciting competition and how can you participate. And of course, we look forward to your submissions, and hopefully you might be one of the lucky winners who will have their experiment or payload sent to the surface of the moon. And this is really a historical opportunity for people from around the world. Okay, so if we go back in history, it all started, let's say in recent history, back in 1957, with the launch of the first artificial satellite made by humans, which is Sputnik 1. After that, it was obviously launched by the USSR, the Soviet Union. And then a few years later, the United States launched the first communication satellite in 1962, which called Telestar. And with this satellite, it was the first television or video transmission via satellite between two locations. And this was a historical moment of first phone call and TV pictures, to be completed or done. When it comes to our region, the Middle East and the Arab world, it was around 10 years later when all the Arab countries came together to establish what is known as Arabsat. Arabsat is an organization of Arab countries, and you can see here in the slide the distribution of ownership of this organization, where Saudi Arabia and Kuwait has the top majority share of this company, and the rest of the Arab countries have different distribution of shares. And this company is dedicated with operating telecommunication satellites and broadcasting, and they've been servicing the Arab region and the Middle East since then, since the 70s until today. And their latest satellite was Arabsat 6A, which was launched by SpaceX Falcon 9 Heavy back in 2019. And I think they will have Arabsat 7 coming up probably in a year or so. They recently have announced that they will launch the next one, I believe, next year. So that's something that continues to develop. But again, since the beginning or the dawn of the space sector, the Arab world participated, although initially it started with something very basic by establishing satellite ground stations to receive signals. And that was in the late 60s and early 70s. But then things developed by mid-70s when actually became an operator of satellites. When it comes to the United Arab Emirates or the UAE, it was around the same year. Everybody was excited about space, and the late Sheikh Zayed, which is the head of state at that time, actually met with US astronauts because he was very interested and curious about this new technology, and wanted to learn and hear directly from the astronauts and the engineers about space exploration and rockets and how we can reach space and utilize space for our development on Earth. So just to give you some history of the development of the space sector in the UAE. Since then, so around 20 years later, the first mobile satellite phone operator, Thuraya, was established in 1997. And then after that, Yasat was also established as a satellite operator company. This is, of course, in addition to Arabsat. So UAE specifically were interested in developing their own capabilities in addition to being part of Arabsat. And then also in 2006, they established a center. Back then it was known as Emirates Institute for Advanced Science and Technology, EIAST. And then it was renamed in 2015 to Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center. And this center was established specifically to build the UAE capabilities when it comes to satellites, whether operating satellites and also design and developing their own local satellites. And then the major development was in 2014 when the UAE Space Agency was established, and that triggered many initiatives and projects and space missions. To name few, they have announced at that time their intention to have a mission to Mars, which I will talk in the next slides. Also to set up a Mars Scientific Center to basically to study the environment on Mars and develop technologies and capabilities to enable human sustainable presence on Mars. And this is part of their strategic plan. So actually their target in the UAE, and this was set at the national strategic level, that by 2117 that they will have a UAE or an Emirati astronaut land on the surface of Mars. So in about 100 years from now, that's their target, is to have an Emirati or UAE astronauts and even a settlement on Mars. Now, also, they have developed their astronaut program, and also I'm going to talk more about it, and also set up a National Space Science and Technology Center in Abu Dhabi. Also set up several research centers at different universities in different locations within the UAE. And they even expanded to beyond the country to other neighboring countries and Arab countries by establishing programs dedicated to encouraging and inviting Arab youth and Arab scientists and engineers to join them in developing the capabilities of these people within the space sector. And also recently they have announced a new satellite initiative, which they called Satellite 813. And the idea behind this initiative is to invite all the Arab countries to nominate their experts, scientists, engineers to come together to work collaboratively to design and develop and manufacture and then operate a remote sensing satellite that will service the entire Arab countries. So this is, again, part of their initiative is to also not to work alone, but to collaborate with neighboring countries and beyond to build together the capabilities of space technologies for the benefit of humanities, of course. Now, this is also showing you the satellites that they have designed and launched. So in 2019, 2019 was the Dubai Sat-1, and that was a remote sensing satellite. And this was the first wholly owned satellite by the UAE. And then there was a CubeSat project in 2016, which is NAIF-1. It was their first initiative for the students to work on a space project. And then following that, there was Dubai Sat-2 and then Khalifa Sat, and they continue in their satellite program under MBRSC to design and manufacture locally. So they have facility locally in Dubai to put together satellites and then work with launch providers or launch services to launch these satellites to orbit. And when it comes to their astronaut program in 2019, the first Arab to visit the International Space Station was from the UAE. So he went there. He spent around 7 days in the ISS as the first UAE astronaut. And then they continued, also the following year in 2020, even though it was COVID, they went with their plan to launch their Mars mission. So it was launched in July 2020 as it's called the Hope mission. And then in 2021, it actually arrived successfully into Mars orbit. And this spacecraft or probe continues to orbit Mars and collect data about Mars' atmosphere and sends the data back to Earth. And these data sets are actually made available publicly and free to all scientists and engineers and even students from around the world to benefit from these data. So I encourage you, if you're interested in learning more about, you can visit the Hope mission website, and you can find all the information there. Now they continue with their space astronaut program. So now they actually have 4 astronauts under training, and recently they have announced that in 2023, so next year, Sultan, which is the one to the left, the last one to the left, that he will go to the International Space Station and spend 6 months to do various experiments and technology demonstrations, and of course also build their capabilities in having long-term astronauts in space. Also they continue to with more missions. So actually around end of this year they will launch their lunar mission, and this will be a rover mission. Again, it will be the first Arab lunar rover that will land on the moon. We're hoping by end of the year, and we'll do several technology demonstrations and collecting data about the surface of the moon, and hopefully that will be the start of more missions in the future. Now, turning into Saudi Arabia, Saudi Arabia has also been one of the leaders in the region when it comes to developing space capabilities. So they go back to 1985 when they launched the first Arab and Muslim and even royal into space. He actually was one of the astronauts among one of the space shuttle flights in the 80s, where he also spent around 7 days in space and returned back to Earth. So Saudi Arabia, they've been developing their satellite manufacturing capabilities since the 2000s, working on different satellites, mostly focusing on communication satellites to build their local capabilities. And they've been developing satellites that have been launched by service providers, so other nations that have launched capabilities to launch their satellites. And the latest one was last year, which is Shaheen Sat, that was launched in 2021. And just yesterday, so this is very brand new news. Yesterday, Saudi Arabia announced the return of their astronaut program. Although they only had one astronaut since the 80s, now they're bringing back their astronaut program with 2 astronauts. One is actually female, that they will go to space next year, so only in a few months from now. That they will send their 2 astronauts to the International Space Station. Now, I know this slide's in Arabic, but basically it just explains, that now they are establishing their astronaut program, and that it will include both male and female astronauts, and also include short and long-term missions into space. To work on scientific research and experiments for the benefit of humanity. And the goal of this program, just like any other nation, is to build their capabilities when it comes to space travel, and specifically human space travel, and also to conduct research and scientific experiments related to human sustainable presence in space, or even in other planets and celestial bodies. And of course, to benefit from this knowledge and experience, to develop technologies for even humans on Earth, and improve the quality of life and our sustainable living on planet Earth. So, and this is not a surprise, those 2 countries have been announced major investment with, pumping lots of money in the billions of dollars to develop their space capabilities. And we're seeing the translation of that through the announcements of their space programs and space missions. And of course, as an entrepreneurs, me and my business partner, we saw this development as an opportunity for us to set up our startup company. And this is where we established Orbital Space. Orbital Space is established in Dubai, UAE. and it's a startup company, and we have educational CubeSat. So we actually own a satellite that has launched last year in 2021, and we have a ground station also in Dubai. So we are not as big as the space centers in other countries, but we're starting small and we're hoping to grow. Now you might ask, what do we do and what's our mission and vision as a company? So as I have mentioned before, countries in the region are now putting on their national strategic plans, and this is not only UAE and Saudi Arabia, even now Bahrain, Oman, Qatar, they all have announced in their strategic plans and their vision for the coming years to build their local capabilities in the space sector. And if you look at the student population here in this diagram, it shows that there is a good size population of students, and from our point of view as a startup company, we see them as our clients. If the national plans is to develop the capabilities in this sector, then they will have to start from the young people, because those will be the next generation of scientists, engineers, and professionals who will be working in this sector. So we focused our efforts on how can we, as a startup company and a business, can service this gap, where is to provide educational opportunities, educational programs and activities to give opportunities and make space accessible to this segment in the population. Keep in mind that because we are relatively new to this area, there's a lot of fear that, oh, this is very difficult, this is very expensive. So we want to change that mindset and this culture to showing that no, maybe in the past it used to be very expensive and very difficult, but now because of the advancement of technology and the involvement of the private sector, things became more efficient, easier, and relatively less expensive to enter this segment. And we want to prove that even a small startup company can work on space mission, can actually own satellites and ground stations as assets and operate them and work on space missions for this segment, for the students and the youth. So we have worked on several initiatives, and now I'm just going to go through what we have done in the past, just to show you that we can do that. It's not that difficult to do. So the first initiative we called Experiment in Space competition, and this was offered to students from high school level to propose ideas that could be sent to space, and ideas for a science experiment that could be sent to space. And we told them that the prize of this competition, the best idea, we will actually work with you to develop it and send it to space. So here I'll just show you some video of what has been done. So when we announced it, we invited the students to come and present in front of a judging panel their ideas and then to select the best idea. And you can see there are students, for both male and female, presenting in front of the judging panel, defending their ideas, explaining what they have in mind and how it's going to be done. And of course, the judging panel was also very critical in asking them questions to make sure that they fully understand these concepts. So the idea was not just to send something to space. The idea was to make them go through the journey of, formulating their ideas, then having the skills to defend their ideas in front of a judging panels of experts, and then work in developing the idea into an actual payload that could be sent to space. And this is a mission patch for this mission. And you can see this was launched in 2020 with SpaceX CRS 2021, and that was the flight number. And it was sent to the International Space Station. And then the astronauts who were there, they were part of Expedition 64. That one of the astronauts actually conducted the experiment on behalf of the students. The experiment itself was about studying the behavior of newly developed, or what are maybe the right word for it is genetically modified E. coli bacteria, and that's why you can see the symbol of bacteria that has been genetically modified to absorb CO2 as a feed instead of glucose. So it's feeding on CO2 as its fuel to live. So this is something was new that was recently developed by a research group in Germany, and the students wanted to test the behavior of this bacteria in microgravity. And you can see the names of the students on the mission patch, and also our partners. So we have to work with Kuwait University and the Scientific Center of Kuwait to make the labs available for the students, and also give them mentors, because they are high school students, so they needed mentorship and coaching to educate them into how to plan for a science experiment, how to prepare it, how to develop it, and make it ready to be sent to space. And here, this is a video about what they have done in the lab to prepare for their experiment. And keep in mind, this was done during COVID, so it was some of the students were engaged remotely because of COVID. So after preparing the experiment or the payload, it was shipped to the US, to Kennedy Space Center, where we had one of the flights with SpaceX going to the International Space Station to actually take it with them to the ISS. And this is a video of the launch. Now, the launch was also in 2020, was the end of 2020. But to let you know, there was also delays. It was not very simple. It was not an easy or straightforward process. Actually, the initial launch was scheduled for August, and was delayed to October, and then November, and then we finally launched in December. And this is very normal and part of the nature of space flights, and especially since we were also in COVID-19 situation, it was not an easy, but we managed to successfully have the payload in space inside the International Space Station. And here you can see a photo of the payload with the background of Earth. And this is a video where one of the astronauts, one of the NASA astronauts, actually conducted the experiment on behalf of the students on board the International Space Station. And the experiment was there in space for 40 days, and then after 40 days, it was returned back to Earth with the Dragon capsule returning back to Earth. And this is the video of the return and the splashdown of the capsule. So within 3 days from splashdown, it was back in Kuwait with the students to complete their analysis. And then after we completed this project, we decided to go on a second or more sophisticated project, which is to work on a CubeSat project. And we did this for Kuwait. So it was the first Kuwaiti CubeSat. Again, the purpose of this mission was educational. So it was an educational and amateur communication satellite. The plan was to put this CubeSat, it's a 1U CubeSat, on sun-synchronous orbit at 550 kilometers above the surface of the Earth, with a mass of 1 kilogram and dimensions of 10 centimeter cube, and to be launched with SpaceX. And what this satellite do basically transmits signals. So because we wanted to make the people of Kuwait proud and increase their pride about their country, is that to transmit part of the national anthem of Kuwait. So any amateur radio person, if they can turn in, if they turn into the frequency of the satellite, they can hear the national anthem of Kuwait being broadcasted at this frequency. It also sends a text message identifying itself as a Kuwait's first satellite. So anybody who picks the signal and decode it, they will see that. It also had some basic sensors such as temperature, sunlight, and magnetic field sensors to collect data and then send them back to Earth. And these are some photos of what we have done. This is, although it's a Kuwait satellite, but actually we're registered under the UAE, because in Kuwait there was no facilities or registry to register the satellites. So it's registered under the UAE. And this is why you see in the mission it has both flags, Kuwait and the UAE. And this video shows some of the testing that was done before launch. This is the vibration testing to make sure that the satellite will survive the vibration of the rocket launch. This is also another impact test. And after we're done with all the testing, both environmental and, comes to temperature, vibration, and impact, then it was launched in summer of 2021, was last year, also with SpaceX. And it's currently, and then a few weeks later, it was deployed. And this is a video of the deployment. into orbit. And you can see here from the background, this was deployed over Turkey and Cyprus. So now, we have our third initiative or third mission, which we are very excited about. And we want to tell you all about it and how you can participate in this. And we're hoping that in few years, in 2025, we will manage to successfully send this payload to the surface of the moon, just like what we have done in our previous missions, where we have successfully sent something made by students to space. So what's this competition is about we are inviting you and everybody else from around the world to submit ideas for experiments or a test that could be conducted on the surface of the moon. And we want to challenge you. So it's not going to be something easy. And we know this, going to the moon, it's not easy. It's difficult. But, we trust that our young people from around the world, they can do that. They have the energy and the intelligence to be able to come up with new ideas to solve some of these challenges. Now, the barcode here, or the QR code, if you scan it, actually it will take you to the site where you can submit your ideas. So what exactly we're providing, or what are the constraints? Because sending something to the moon is very expensive, and we are a startup company, so we have limited resources. So we managed to secure a space or a volume with one of the commercial landers that is going to the moon, to use this volume, which is 10 centimeter cube, so about the size of 1U CubeSat, as a volume with a total mass of 200 grams. So this we have secured and it's available to us. And we're given this volume and mass as an opportunity for you, if you come up with a good idea, that we will put it in this and then send it to the moon, and conduct your experiment or your test, and then have the data back to Earth. And that will give you the opportunity to be the person or the team who actually worked on something that has been sent to the moon and landed on the moon. And this is, of course, a historical thing, because yes, we did land on the moon back in the late 60s and the 70s, but it's still considered something new, something difficult, and we're still learning so much about the moon and the moon environment. And whatever we do there, it will be an added value and contribution to our knowledge as humans on Earth about the moon. So you might ask, okay, what is the benefit? Why should I care about this, or why should I be, investing my time to participate in this? It's actually an opportunity for you to learn about how real scientists conduct experiments. So it's not about just submitting idea. Submitting idea is just the first step. Well, then after that, you have to work with scientists and engineers, just like the way I showed you before with the high school students, how they worked with Kuwait University scientists and engineers. The same thing here. You're going to be working with people who are experts in working on lunar missions and working on lunar landers, to develop your idea into an experiment. And then also, just by thinking about ideas to submit, you will be exploring topics of an interest. And again, we make it open, so you can think of anything, and this is your choice. You decide which topic you're interested in, and you can learn more about the moon environment, and what do we know so far, and how your idea can contribute to increasing our knowledge about the moon. And then also you're going to learn about how to conduct experiments in space, because you're going to be working on a real space mission, and you have to comply with all the standards, all the requirements required by the lunar lander, the rocket launcher, and everybody else involved in this space mission. And of course, this will also help you understand, how things work, or how things are different on the surface of the moon compared to Earth. And you never know, maybe you will, because of these unique conditions, that you might come up with something new that could be, introduced on Earth because of just these specific conditions, these things could not be developed on Earth. Maybe your idea will be the seed or the start of a new technology that will be developed on the moon, and we could benefit from it on Earth. Now, who's eligible to enter this competition? It's actually open to all. So anybody can participate, whether they're young or old. However, we require, and this is for legal purposes, because we have to sign agreements and certain things, that at least if you are in a team, that at least there should be one who's 18 years and older to be able to sign documents and things like that. But the team can also consist of people younger than 18 to be part of the team. So an example could be a university professor, and then or a school teacher, and then the students will work together as one team. Or it could be team of adults, they're already 18 years or older. Or it could be somebody who just not even a student. Could be somebody, an amateur, or somebody just interested about this topic, that they have a good idea that we can consider for this. Again, no specific qualifications or expertise in the field is required. Anybody is encouraged to submit ideas, because we believe that you have good ideas, and then maybe one of these ideas can be developed further with the experts to be a great payload or a great experiment that could be sent to the moon. The competition has two phases. The first phase, which has a deadline by end of the year, so December 16th is the deadline, is to submit your proposal for ideas. And here we're just talking about the idea, and you have to explain why your idea is important, or why should we send it to the moon, why should we invest resources, technical and financial resources, to develop your idea into a payload that will be sent to the moon. And also tell us about your capabilities and knowledge, whether in software or hardware, into developing this idea. You also have to include some timeline, budget estimates, again, estimate how much this will cost. So because we want you to learn how to plan for space missions. So you have to understand what is required to submit a proposal for a space mission. And this is part of the learning journey, is that you have to go through this, learn from it, and hopefully, if you're successful, it will stick with you for even future projects. Then the next phase, that we will shortlist the top 10 ideas, and then we will invite them to present their ideas live in front of a judging panel of experts. And then we will decide on the winning idea. Then once we select the winning idea, then we will work with them in 23 and 24 to develop the payload, test it, make sure it's ready, to be sent to the moon. We're gonna be working and collaborating with our partners, Astrobotics, which is a lunar lander company that develop commercial landers that they sent to the moon. Actually, their first lander will be sent hopefully end of this year, and then we will be going with them in the future. We also have a partnership with MBRC, Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center, so we can use their facilities and expertise, and also the support of UAE Space Agency to help us develop the payload, test it and integrate it, and then have it ready to be launched to the moon. So this is all about what we do and the new opportunity to send an experiment to the moon. And I'm available for any questions.
Yeah, thank you so much for this very interesting, exciting talk. And I think you're doing many things. And I asked you before, say who's going to pay for this all this activity? You told me that this all your money, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah,
we need more people like you in Taiwan also. And so there are questions, and anyone have question, please raise the hand, and I would let you ask the questions. And then I can see also a number, of experts here in Taiwan who have been involved in CubeSat construction. Let me ask Professor Gao.
Yes.
你在吗？哈。
是。Hello, everyone.
You have questions? This is Professor Gao, Senlong Gao from the National Taiwan Ocean University. I think that just a few months ago, he launched a CubeSat. And maybe you can
congratulations.
Or you tell your experience. Yeah. If I do turn on your camera so that we can see you.
Hello. I learned about very a lot about from your speech. Thank you very much. Because the first one we call the Yushan CubeSat with the ARS automatic identification system, especially for the marine science and marine traffic monitoring and the sea surface weather monitoring system to collecting the big data from the ocean all over the world. This is the Yushan 1.5U mission purpose. Okay.
Great.
And
great.
Is it still operating?
Exciting.
Professor Gao, is your satellite still operating?
Yes, our satellite is operating right now, but we only received the transponder message. We didn't get the AIS message and decode the information about the transceiver. Maybe it's something happened from the CubeSat itself, or the Earth station cannot transmit the signal to the CubeSat. So only I can see the transponder signal, but we cannot receive the AIS message, especially we can decode the information from the versus information. Maybe we can go for the AIS plus with Miss Dr. Ye. I think he's a great leader in our country. I'll follow his steps and keep going with all our teamwork together. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor Gao. And I can see Professor Albert Gong. Albert, are you there? Because we our space agency is also starting a lunar mission.
Oh wow! Okay.
Putting some instrument on a lander, and it might be on the same lander as yours. I tell you.
Maybe.
So we might be neighbor.
Yeah.
So there are also always a number of questions that our colleagues want to ask. Assuming it's the same lander, same mission. How long would the mission be?
So the mission will be for one lunar day. and a lunar day is about 14 Earth days, and this is the time usually, that you will have the lander on the daytime of the moon, because once you go into the nighttime, it's just going to be too cold to function and operate. So once it's landed, it's going to land during the day, and it will continue to operate until it's nighttime, which is one lunar day.
So you're on a very tight schedule because you have to some checkout time, right? So
and that's it. Once we reach night, it will be the end of the mission, and everything will stop.
As we discussed that, we hope that there will be proposals from Taiwan, and we announced that for the proposals from Taiwan, if they are lacking some knowledge or information on the lunar science, we here would be happy to help them, before they submit the proposal. So that but they still have to submit a proposal. They must submit a proposal to you through the email address, right? Yeah.
Yeah. That's correct.
And other thing is that you explained that you don't just need the idea, right? You also need seems that you also need a very detailed description on the experiment.
Yeah, so basically, as much as possible, we understand that not everybody has all the details. The more details, the better, but not necessarily. So you put as much details as you can, and we will assess and evaluate. Sometimes we might have a great idea, but not too much details. Then we can discuss it further later and try to get more information. And then we have time, because the launch is set for 2025. So we have about 2 years time to develop the details and have everything ready.
And how about the budget? There's no limit to the budget because it's your money.
Well, so we will cover the cost. We will cover the cost of sending the payload to the moon. So this will be covered as part of the prize for winning the idea. But then now the cost of developing the actual payload, that's something that the participants have to figure out how they will cover. But we don't anticipate it will be very expensive because it's going to be something very small. We're talking about 200 grams. And that could fit in a very small volume. So the cost of these components will not be too much.
Well, going back, to at the beginning of your talk, your lecture, congratulations to the Mars mission, the first Mars mission from UAE. I mean, we are very, very envious of it. put the other way. But you have already a Mars mission, but you also mentioned that the data is now open. Is it the data are open?
Yes. Yes, available.
Yeah, I'm thinking that if you're interested, I mean, if Orbital Space is interested, we can discuss later. We may think about to encourage our young people to work together, so we can have some call for joint research project on Mars. I mean, using the data available from the whole mission. Yeah.
Sure.
And
yes,
assuming that you can talk to your agency people. Yeah. But since the data are open, so that should not be a problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and they'll be happy to see that someone is using this data and benefiting from it. So yeah.
Right.
No problem.
So we have some joint program on that, cooperation. Yeah. Right. And as you said, it's important to stimulate the interest and assignment of the young students. Yeah. Maybe at level even to high school, even to college students. Yeah. To that level. Yeah. Now you also mentioned that there will be a new satellite mission. Combining the efforts, joining the forces of all the Arabian experts. And the mission is called 813, mission 813. Why is it called 813?
So 813 is the year when they established a library. So back in 1813, a major library in Baghdad was established. So
great.
it was like a
happy
symbol or an icon of the Arab knowledge, because they collected all the knowledge into this library. So it's like an icon for the Arab countries, and that's why they named it 813.
I'm very happy that I asked that question, because I did not know. Such a profound meaning. Yeah, of course the Arab have the most tremendous our library at that time. Yeah, collecting all the knowledge in the world at that time. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
If there are any questions from the audience, they can raise hands or just ask the questions. Open your mic. And maybe then I ask the last question from, because I see some expert, the space scientist expert. Nishino-san, are you there? Nishino-san?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, right. You have questions to Dr. Alfeeli?
Yes, and I have a lot of questions. The most important one is anyway, I enjoyed your talk and very impressed by your presentation. And one question I have is, have you already considered the after the impact of the CubeSat, what happens to the lunar environment?
So the payload, it's not a CubeSat. It's just a volume, a space, which is about the size of a CubeSat, that we can put the payload, whatever experiment or test or hardware, inside this container. Now this container will be integrated into the lunar lander. So it's a bigger and larger spacecraft. It's a lunar lander, which will contain multiple payloads from different clients. And maybe Taiwan will also be on this mission. We'll see. But it will have multiple payloads, and then the lander will land on the surface of the moon, and then we will run these payloads or these experiments in a specific order. We have to agree on what will be the order of these experiments. But when it comes to the impact, the impact will be, yes, the lander, because it has thrusters, and these thrusters are using chemicals, so it will have some contamination on the surface of the moon, at least the landing site. I'm sure it will stir dust in that landing site. So yeah, it will have an impact for sure. But this is part of the study. I mean, maybe this is one of the things that we should study and investigate and understand, how this change in the environment, just because of the lander landing on the site, how can it disturb and change the environment on the moon. Also, we are very cautious about protecting the moon or the lunar environment. So we're not allowing any biological samples to be sent to the moon. Because this lander will, once it's landed to the moon, it will stay there forever. It's not returning back. Nobody will remove it. It will just be there for the rest of history. So yeah, the biological samples will not be allowed. Only hardware, or maybe some things that they're not biological in nature, that will be allowed as a payload.
By the way, Bassam, I should mention that the Nishino-san, he's an expert on the moon. He did a lot of work on the Kaguya.
Oh, okay, okay. Great.
Yeah,
Great.
He makes some very interesting discoveries also.
Nice,
another thing is that Nishino-san, you might be even more knowledgeable about the lander than we do, because the lander, suppose it's to be provided by the iSpace, right?
Yes, but I'm not currently engaged in iSpace.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it might be provided by Japan, by a Japanese company. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Then I can see Judy Zhang. Are you there, Judy?
Yes.
You want to ask questions? This is a good time to to ask questions about the lunar experiment, right? I think you must have lots of questions.
Yes. Actually, we are now joining the lunar mission, and I think the mass for the payload is quite limited, because only 200 kilograms.
200 grams. 200 grams.
Yeah. It's very challenging.
200 grams.
Yeah. If we consider about the radiative effect or other, like some component require some thermal control, I think the mass of the limited is very tricky. Yeah, very challenging. Yeah.
So you have to think strategically and come up with something that could have a useful knowledge, yet is very small. Again, it does not have to be advanced technology. We're not saying it has to be advanced. It could be basic technologies. It could be a simple sensor or a simple board, electronic board, within this mass constraint.
Yeah.
The idea is to encourage people, to make them think, understand, and hopefully collect some knowledge or some data from the moon that could be useful to us later in the future, or could be the start of more experiments and more detailed missions in the future to do this. So don't limit yourself. Just think strategically. Small space and small mass. What can I do with this to make something useful?
What Bassam is saying, that he's going to provide more opportunities in future, right? There will be more.
Maybe we'll see. or others maybe. Well, if we start something, I'm sure we will attract investors in the future.
I think it's a very clever way, to raise the awareness, especially for the young people. Very good. You see, already, you have succeeded in stirring a lot of interest from our side, and okay, I think the time is almost. You need to have. I don't know when do you have a lunch time?
Well, it's already.
And we should finish this session now. But then I would write to you to continue our discussion on this possible joint data analysis program using the Mars the Hope mission, and then we will keep you informed on the activity that whether there are Taiwanese students or researchers interested in making proposals. Yeah. And
yes, and if you have more questions or anybody asks more questions, please feel free to email us. We'll be more than happy to answer more questions.
About and thank you everybody for coming. Yeah, thank you everybody for coming to this session. I hope that you learn a lot, and then from knowing that the UAE is mounting a major effort towards space, and we should learn it. We should follow this very important example. Another, I'm very happy to meet you, and hope that we will have a chance to meet and talk and discuss further possible cooperation. And thank you everybody. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Yeah.